Avatar: The Last Airbender. In the story, they just take him away. You're concerned, as a grown-ass man, of this fake cartoon bison thing. His design was actually based off the cat bus from My Neighbor Totoro. It's absolutely fire. In water, in wind, in earth.
Water. Earth. Fire. Air.
Welcome to the list. This is a show we pluck a name out of our all-time movies and series watch list, watch it, and review it for your viewing pleasure. The series I'm scratching off the list today is a 2005 Nickelodeon all-timer, Avatar: The Last Airbender. In a war-torn world of elemental magic, a young boy reawakens to undertake a dangerous mystic quest to fulfill his destiny as the Avatar and bring peace to the world. So I'm trying to educate myself a little bit on and become more diverse when it comes to anime. And I know there's a lot of discourse online whether or not this is even an anime. Americans say it's not. Japanese says it's not necessarily a country or origin thing. Whether or not it's an anime or not, of course, because of the Netflix thing, I wanted to educate myself a little bit on it. Growing up, I did not care. I felt I might have been a little bit too old for it, but it wasn't something that was pulling me in necessarily back in the day. But the more and more I wanted to educate myself in all things anime, this series kept popping up, and mostly by adults and people my age and a little bit older would say how good this series is. Even my phone recommended it to me. And I will say, now that I fully binged it, I was tripping. This is a fantastic, timeless series. I still stand by the fact that the art style isn't like mind-blowing, but all the other things like the stories, the characters that make a series great is really what makes this series absolutely fantastic. It's absolutely fire. In water, in wind, in earth.
Water. Earth. Fire. Air.
There's definitely more comedy than I suspected. It is a kid show, so the jokes are pretty predictable, but I'm not gonna lie, there are a couple that did get me to chuckle, and most of it comes from Sokka, which is actually supposed to be a more serious character, but voice actor Jacques Desena injected so much life into the character that he just became the comedic relief. So shout outs to him. He took the character and made it its own, and he can be a lot of people's favorites. He carries the whole series comedically by himself. Yes, there's other scenarios and other jokes. You can throw in Uncle Iroh in there, of course, but Sokka does most of the heavy lifting in that department. Mae Whitman voiced Katara, who we've mentioned before in a previous list episode. She was featured in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. And most famously, Dante Basco plays Zuko, aka Later on the series, Commander Zhao is introduced, and he's voiced by Jason Isaac, and the character is really heavily based off his same role that he played in The Patriot. The one casting choice that I'm super disappointed in, not in the performance itself, but I'm disappointed in myself that I didn't catch it, because it doesn't sound like him, is Mark Hamill as Ozai. I did not know that going in. I didn't know that coming out. It was something that I found out with research. There were instances where it did give me Mark Hamill vibes, but I never thought it was actually Mark Hamill, but of course, he killed it.
Really? You're gonna take me out? You're not even wearing pants.
No, Fire Lord Ozai. You're not wearing pants.
Ah! No! My royal parts are showing!
Dave Filoni directed 9 episodes during the series. You might recognize him now for good or bad, depending on what side you're on, in having a heavy part creatively in the whole Star Wars universe. You know what I mean? The series is technically 3 seasons. They call them books. Here, they're roughly around at least 20 episodes per season. They're very easily bingeable, especially with the pretty cool, fun, and creative fights that are just littered throughout every single episode. But It's how compelling they make each of the characters. Just take Zuko, for example. He's a really compelling bad guy because they take the whole series and they give him a whole arc, and you understand why he's bad when he's bad and when he's eventually not. That takes some time. It's just not something they just brush over. But Prince Zuko wasn't even supposed to play that big a role in the show. The writers put him in to chase the Avatar so that there was some sort of connection between him and the ultimate villain, because the early thoughts was just to have Master Ozai be like some sort of shadowy figure. This way they can also give us a little insight into how Ozai is and why he is that way that he is. I already made a note 4 episodes in that it's really, really good writing. It's a how kid show. I grossly underestimated the show. What the hell is this? Okay. All right. Put that away. Nothing confused me. I could see what they were going to do. The mission of what they have to do is super clear, and it's kind of predictable what's going to happen, but that doesn't mean it's not good, because they hit where they're supposed to hit. So Aang is the Avatar, but to become the Avatar, he has to master the 4 elements. So basically the whole series, he's looking for masters to ultimately master and bend these elements to his will, and also master how to become an Avatar. And becoming an Avatar is this badass thing. He just goes into a trance, and basically all the past Avatars become this one thing, kinda. When he does become an Avatar, it feels like a monumental thing, like, oh, like it's about to go down. It feels heavy, it feels important, and that is due to the writing, because they made it that way. You can tell that when Aang transforms, he's not even Aang anymore. So there is point A and point B at the beginning of each season, but there's a lot of twists and turns and what I like to call side missions along the way. And I honestly feel like there's really no filler throughout the whole series, because each episode something happens and someone in our main crew learns something, and it's always carried over within the series into the next episode, next season. They might hold on to that information later on and it may come up later. Nothing feels wasted, and that's awesome because your time isn't wasted. Again, I approached this with like the stupid little cartoon mentality, but it's not. They have very heavy themes like sexism and deeper scenarios of jealousy, war, genocide. It's all just these heavy themes that I wasn't really expecting from this little Nickelodeon show. And when they introduce a new character, they make sure to give this character dimension and their proper time to see where they're actually coming from. Take Jet, for example, who his design is based off of Spike from Cowboy Bebop, and his name is actually taken from Jet Black. The creators of Avatar: The Last Airbender were huge Cowboy Bebop fans, so they did that as an homage. But take him, for example. He comes in between the teams because he's presenting different types of ideas within war. So Aang and his crew have honor within war, and homie, he just wants to steal from old innocent people and kill them just because he's fueled by revenge, and it doesn't really matter. And they also use flashbacks beautifully to tell us where Aang and his crew are coming from. So they're obviously labeled good and evil, but the good and evil has an origin from both sides, and it's just shown beautifully throughout the whole series. And it's especially shown with Prince Zuko and his uncle. They give him a lot of shine as well, and they give him so much dimension. So not a single character ever betrays himself. And when they kind of do, it's for a reason. So in the first book or the first season, Zuko is always chasing after Aang to try to capture the Avatar and take him back for his father, because he thinks that is his destiny, and he's trying to get his honor and his status back because he was banished from the Fire Tribe. So after first 20 episodes, it does feel a little bit like this guy getting in the way, because Aang is trying to do his own thing. He's trying to master water, earth, and fire on his own. So you always have the Fire Tribe behind them, destroying villages and people and getting in the way of their ultimate goal. The first season, towards the end, it does feel a little bit tiring that Zuko is just there chingándole. So by the beginning of the second book, Earth, they introduce his sister Azula, who is like Zuko but times 20. She's a badass character. She's also hunting Zuko now, and the people who are supposed to be badasses in the series are badasses, and you never question why they get to be badasses, because they show you why they're badass. It's not just like she's a badass y te caes a la verga because I said so. It's no, this is why she's a badass. And they always do it through fighting, and the fight choreography is amazing. And again, not a single character betrays himself not only through actions but also through the fighting. Not a single character does something where you're like, okay, I don't believe that, because we've been seeing them slowly grow and slowly become what they're slowly showing you throughout the series. And they always do it by bringing them up, and they don't never pull anybody down to make themselves look better, which is what every show, every movie does now. You don't have to pull someone down to show how good you are. Just show yourself how badass you are without bringing the other person down. This is what I mean. They took a whole episode really to flesh out Zuko as well. He's so broken, and they even try to give him a random girl at one point, which he eventually gets a girl. But I really enjoyed that whole Zuko episode because it has so much in it. He's helping a different tribe, and he doesn't want to show that he's Fire Tribe because being from the Fire Tribe holds a weight to it, and no matter what, you're just discriminated and you're hated, even though you already helped all these people out. That whole episode is fantastic. They're actually going to get Uncle Iroh a solo episode as well, and he was actually meant to betray Zuko and reveal himself as a double agent. I'm so glad they didn't do that. Spiritually, Uncle Iroh is the best character. He knew where Zuko had to end up and start and all that other stuff. So he was just supposed to be a mentor, but they really established him as more than just a mentor.
I know what you're gonna say. She's my sister and I should be trying to get along with her.
No, she's crazy and she needs to go down.
It's just the character building in the series is just so great. So when something happens to one of them, you feel it because you've been along the way. You understand what that specific thing means. Like when Appa, the flying bison, gets abducted, for example. Aang loses his shit, but you understand why he lost his shit. They've been showing their relationship up until that, and then in later episodes they say that they are tethered together. There's an unbreakable bond between them. So I was kind of in Aang's shoes. I was fucking pissed. Where the fuck is Appa for 3 episodes? He's a huge part in the story. They just take him away. You're concerned, as a grown-ass man, of this fake cartoon bison thing. And it helps that Appa's such a badass and he's so cool too. His design was actually based off the cat bus from My Neighbor Totoro. The animal combinations are cool too, like the platypus and the turtle. Momo is awesome as well. He's a lemur and a bat.
Lemur, he's earthbending.
No, you idiot, it's the girl!
So each of the element bending is based on a martial art, which is really interesting. And another thing that I found interesting is that the best benders are children, including Toph. When she came in, she took some of the comedic relief away from Sokka as well. She was fantastic, but she was also not even supposed to be a she in the beginning. She was almost a 16-year-old boy who wasn't even blind. But writers felt it would have been more compelling to make her a female, add the fact that she's blind, which comes in play throughout the whole series. Like a ongoing gag as they keep trying to show her things and she's like, dude, I can't see. And the fact that she can feel and see through her feet, and in the later episode she burns her feet. So everything is calculated and has so much thought in it, you can't help but to appreciate it. But in her debut episode, she comes in as a wrestler. They were actually trying to get Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson to play the character who is named the Boulder. They were unsuccessful in getting that. And another casting choice that I feel stupid not recognizing, instead playing the Boulder, was none other than Mick Foley.
Listen up, Hippo. You may be big, but you ain't bad. The Boulder's gonna win this in a landslide.
Again, Zuko's contrast throughout the whole series is just fantastic. So whenever the good guys are doing something over here, they always contrast with what the bad guys are doing over here. It could be learning a skill. There's one episode where they're both in training and they're both learning different things at the same time, but they inject so many complicated decisions in relationship again in what I thought was this stupid little show. In the 3rd season, there's a hint of Katara and Zuko potentially being something, and in a later episode is also referenced, not until the end where it's revealed that it was necessarily nothing. But there's a lot of Katara and Zuko stands that felt at the time that it was going to be something huge. But even having Zuko join the team was like a gigantic complicated relationship and decision to me, because they reminded us everything that Zuko's been doing up to the point where he just decides to be a good guy basically, and that takes a whole lot of time for them to completely be like, all right, sure, whatever you feel is Aang, whatever you feel is the right thing to do, we'll move on to do it. And it still takes Katara a whole other episode of him helping her solve some of her past problems and her past storylines for her to completely ingratiate him into the group.
I'll never forgive him. But I am ready to forgive you.
Each episode, from concept and script writing all the way for it to be aired, took around 9 months, which is wild. But once you start to figure out how much research and dedication and attention to detail went into the series, it makes a lot of sense. So much work was in the calligraphy, in the artwork, in the choreography, that you just can't help but appreciate it. It does end with one open question as to what happens to Zuko's mama. There was an edited out scene where he gets to see her, but that was taken out. And the possibility of a 4th season was kind of lingering. Unfortunately, when they were trying to figure that out, M. Night Shyamalan movie was in talks. There's different opinions whether or not this is how it went down, but a lot of them are saying that because they decided to move forward with that movie, instead is they just put a halt to the 4th season. And I have not seen it. We might do it for a list later on. But even me not seeing it, I've heard and known that it's absolutely ass. While doing research, I saw a couple frames and I was already bitching about those couple frames. So maybe that movie actually ended up killing the series as a whole. But even without a 4th series, I felt like it put a bow perfectly. It didn't feel like a 4th season was missing. They just left that one question open. So if you've been curious about the Avatar The Last Airbender series, I would highly recommend it. It's an easy watch. I'd be down to do the same thing for the Legend of Korra spin-off show. I have no idea what the hell that's about. So let me know down in the comments if I should tackle that or any other easy to watch animes I should hop on pretty soon. Thank you guys for watching, and remember to always and forever, you do you.